Welcome back to WECAN. Dre and Andrea Bendewald and Emily Kratter, you are partners in crime in your podcast, Circle This. Anyone who hasn't heard about it yet, you gotta tune in. Dre, you're an actress and you're a creator of mindful spaces. You're a circle facilitator. You're our circle mama. And Em, you're an actress and producer. And together you are role models today in our WECAN Partnership Series. And I'm so excited to show everyone exactly how you work as partners in crime for this incredible project and podcast that you put out into the world called Circle This. Your wagons are hitched to each other, and we're gonna work out exactly, or you're gonna show us how that works between the two of you. So Dre and Em, introduce your podcast Circle This to us. What is it all about for those people who haven't heard about it, which is crazy?
All right, Em, do you want to do it? Well, first of all, I want to say thank you for inviting us both back to your platform and to sit and share what we love to do with you, because we are freaking in love with you and everything that you're doing to elevate the consciousness space, the mindfulness space, giving all of these voices, like countless voices and countless stories, a platform for people to learn and grow and see themselves in all of these conversations. So it's an honor, and we're going to get into how we're all connected and what this podcast is all about. But I first just want to say thank you, really, not only for our connection and our friendship, but for what you're putting out in the world. It's changing the world. You're changing the world, Stephanie.
And so are the two of you.
Mm-hmm. All right, Em, you want to share about what Circle This is about?
Yeah, absolutely. So, the main mission of the podcast is to address the loneliness epidemic. And it is inspired by this practice called circling, which very simply is just having people gather in a circle and share stories. But what comes out of that is this experience of deep and profound connection. And so the point of the podcast is to bring on people who share practices, tools, resources, and just their own stories to help listeners deepen connection to themselves, to others, and then to something bigger, whatever that might mean to you.
Emily, that's a really good pitch. I don't know if I've heard you say it quite so perfectly. I was like,
about 2 years.
I was like, I want to listen to this podcast. Yeah, it's really, and it's an extension. Circle This is an extension of my life in circles. So I found this practice 30 plus years ago. I probably found it like in another lifetime and reconnected to it in this lifetime. But when I sat in my first women's circle in Laurel Canyon, I felt connected to myself, to this authentic voice, to this source. Like I fell in love a little bit with myself for the first time. I was 24, 25. And I thought, wait, what's happening? What's happening to me? And what was happening to me is I was learning simply by sitting in a circle of women, listening to their stories. I was learning about myself. I was learning where I wanted to go, how I wanted to grow. I was feeling connected to something outside of myself, source, nature, God, Mother Earth, and my whole being was ignited, and I've been chasing that high ever since.
and you've passed it on to us, right, Em?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And so then, cut to the pandemic. I've been circling all this time, leading circles, sitting in circles. Someone says to me, why don't you offer them on Zoom or online? I was like, well, I don't know if that'll really work, but sure. And then put it on Instagram. And I meet the two of you through Instagram, through all these magical different connections. We start circling during the pandemic on Zoom, and here we are. Like, what is happening other than miracles and connection, and we're weaving our stories together, we're sharing our stories, we're elevating each other. So anyway, that's how we got here. Wait, one more thing. We got here because Emily, a few other women said, more women should have access to this way of being, to this practice, to these stories, to you. And Emily and I started collaborating and sharing more stories. We started writing a play together. And out of that came this podcast. We were like, well, why don't we just share the stories on a podcast? And so here we are sharing more stories, and it's reaching, we have a global audience now.
Which is so exciting and so deserved. Dre and Em, talk to us about where you're at with the podcast. You're in season 2. You had season 1 in 2025. You're on to season 2 for 2026. What can we expect in the next sort of year? What is your big vision? Where are you heading towards? And then we're going to figure out how you align with that vision, the two of you.
Ooh, I love it. I'll give a short answer and then you give an answer okay. So we are growing and expanding and meeting so many wonderful new people that are attracted to this way and this podcast. So we're in season 2. We're like 60 plus episodes in. We're considered, a success, and we want to keep going. We want to be a huge podcast. We want to have millions of subscribers. We want to share this consciousness with more and more people. And so that's our goal. So we're going to keep doing what we're doing because what we're doing is working. And it's growing.
Yeah, I agree with that. And, the first year for me, at least, was really focusing entirely on the creative aspect of this and figuring it out in real time as we were delivering these episodes, getting feedback, tweaking, learning, creating the structure, seeing what works, what could work better. You're really, really just focusing on that creative arc of a show. And now, yes, exactly. This year is about reaching more people. And I also, this is sort of half baked, but I'm just going to throw it out there. Podcasts are amazing because they are so accessible, right, to everyone. If you have a phone or a computer, you can access these conversations. It's free. And I love that part of it. And I also want to figure out a way, since this is all about connection and community, to take this podcast that people may or may not, but probably listen to solo and just bring the community into the conversation a little bit more. So I'm still mulling over what that might be, but whether it's live events or, bringing panels on so that there's multiple conversations at once, whether it's having listeners call in or leave messages and share their stories that we can include on the podcast. I'm not quite sure yet, but I think a lot about content and context. And I want the context of the podcast to be married with the content of connection and community.
Yes, and add to cart. I want that too. I love it.
We all want that. We all want that,
Yeah.
and we all need that. So talk to us a little bit about, starting it and understanding that, you're onto something really big, right? So you can feel it in your bones that the two of you are onto this thing that resonates and keeps building and keeps, adding listeners and amazing people who circle around subjects with you, the ripple effect. When did you have that?
When did that? Well, in terms of the podcast, we were creating in a vacuum. So we really took what we knew to be true from circles.
Yeah.
And we knew that we used that formula. And what happens in circles, we've all felt it, is that when we're given a safe enough environment to take off our masks, to stop performing, to share without an agenda, that when we experienced that, we felt ourselves, I'm speaking for the two of you, I'm speaking for the data I've collected in circles, is that we feel ourselves expand and awaken and blossom, and it feels so right. And so we took that formula. We didn't go into the podcast saying it's going to be a circle. I was like, it's not a circle. It's not a circle. But it has become circle-esque. And that is, I can't help but be so curious about people's stories and hold space and be transparent about my learning and be transparent about my own process and journey. And it was reflected back to me this weekend that because I had a really amazing birthday circle, it was reflected back to me this weekend a lot about the podcast that because I'm so willing to be seen, that makes people feel safe to see themselves. So even in the listening, that they're listening and they're leaning in, allowing themselves to be seen through whatever the guest and I are unpacking or discovering, or whatever Emily and I are processing in the post pod, that our authenticity or honesty, which feels very organic, which doesn't feel performative, that it's like that notion is allowing other people to do the same. And now we're leaning more into the circle aspect. I am.
Yeah.
I was a little, I can't help it, but I was distancing myself. And then the other very cool thing that's happened from the beginning, there's been so much magic and synchronicity that blows our minds. Like from the day we started recording in New York, and that continues to happen. So it's almost like picture each of our episodes are like a giant circle. And each episode is unfolding because each episode ends up being connected to the other episode unintentionally.
Yeah.
We'll release an episode about connection, and it'll land on a day where something is happening in the news, which is all about our need for connection. Things like that. Like we're not in charge. We're just listening to our inspiration, intuition, and magical things are unfolding around it, through it. How about that? Magical things are unfolding through the podcast.
Yes. I'll add to that, for anybody that's new to us and the podcast, I met Dre because I originally heard her on a podcast. That's how I found circling. I thought it was a meditation class. It ended up being this circle, and it really, really changed my life. And the conversations that I was hearing when Dre and I started writing together were enhancing my life in such a transformative way. And Dre and I share this thing where we want to share everything when it's positively impacting us. So for me, the idea of this podcast, perhaps selfishly, was really about conversations that I needed. And I was just using that kind of as my North Star. I think I represent a little bit of the listener on the podcast. And so yeah, I was just using intuition and my own curiosities to kind of guide where we're going. And I think that's instead of thinking like, ooh, what will they want? I'm trying to trust like, oh, what am I curious about? What am I struggling with? What do I want to learn? And if that's true for me, my hope is that it'll be true for a lot of other people too.
Yeah, and that's my litmus test too, is that I'm so excited about the guests that I'm going to have on that I get to talk to them and learn more from them. And that's also what fuels the podcast, is our curiosity, our connection with people in the world, our desire to be connected or learn more. So it's everything feels connected about our podcast, everything.
It does. And it feels so guided. And so I think, the first circle you were in, I was in that circle. I remember you on the screen. And it was in the pandemic or during the pandemic, and that you're both here now with this really successful podcast, and just, in the same sort of thread as each circle, you just get it out to more people, and it's this beautiful red thread that I think is love, because if we think about a big word that could just encompass it all, I think it's love. And I can see the love between the two of you grow. and it's palpable, and it's this vibe where you're
Yeah.
never afraid to go to any place
Mm.
because it's always filled with love. And so it's never a scary thing. It's never a situation where one could be put off. And it's all the conversations that one needs, that we all need and need more of. And
Mm.
because there is so much love in the room, and for each person that is coming through the door, whether that's a listener or a circle, co-circler, or,
Hmm.
any guests that you bring on the podcast. So talk to us a little bit about your partnership, and,
Mm.
and this love that you have for each other, and that you have for anyone who is connected to you.
Mm. Oh my gosh. I have so many strands I want to weave together. So I'll start with when you said love, I started picturing our circles, and I started picturing self love. And a lot of women come to circles and they're like, I just need to practice more self love. And they don't really know how.
No.
And I'm like, great, we're going to all do it together, because I had to learn self love too. And I learned sitting in women's circles, and I learned from watching other women who really knew themselves, loved themselves, and there was a way to do it. So I got busy on that track, experiencing, practicing, owning, falling in love with myself. And I'm happy to report I really love myself. Case in point, epic birthday circle this weekend where I received, and I allowed, and I was able to receive so much friggin' love and beauty and reflection from other women through this, through this practice. Like, it took practice. And then I attract this spitfire into my life, Emily Kratter, who's like obsessed with what I'm doing and how I'm living and how my friends are honoring and loving one another. And the more she asks me about these stories, the more I'm leaning into, like, oh yeah, we really have something going and growing here. And then she and I have a very strong declaration about working together, that we're friends first, that the other person comes, like, our friendship comes first over work. So whenever we get into conflict all the time, but whenever we do, we prioritize moving through it and talking it out and checking in with each other. And then Emily was out here. I'm going to talk about you in the third person, Emily. Emily, and you can chime in whenever you want. Emily was out here in LA recently, and I'll let you tell the story, but she was having a cathartic moment, a profound moment about chosen family, about friendship, about her fiance. And she wrote me a very beautiful text about how much she loves me. And I like hearted it, and I was like, "Oh my God, I love you too." And then like went on to the million other things that were happening that week. And then she circled back and she was like, "No, I'm not satisfied. I need you to really receive what I'm saying to you." And I was like, "Okay, you're right. Sorry." Scroll, scroll, scroll. Let me read the text. I read it, and I was like, received. I feel it so much. Right? Am I telling the story right, Em? And
Yes, I
then
mean, you were bawling on a plane,
yeah, but then okay, I'm getting to the plane part. So then I'm
Okay.
on an airplane
Oh, right, right.
reading it, and I'm bawling because I'm really taking it in, and we end up texting, really like one of the most profound exchanges of love I have experienced with a friend. And it's because Emily was saying to me, like, no, bitch, slow down and receive what I'm trying to say to you. Like, I am telling you how much you mean to me. And so here I am, like, in the school of self-love and leading circles about it. And Emily, my sweetheart, schooled me in receiving.
Yeah.
So that's what I want to say about love and partnership and our love story, because it really is a love story.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely is. I mean, I have trouble if I was to introduce Dre to somebody who I just met, I don't even I like panic because I'm like, she's my friend. She's my like co-pilot friend, sister, spirit fairy godmother, co-worker, like mentor. I don't know what the word is. It's too many things. She wears probably too many hats in my life. But also, I think, I mean, it's so beautiful. It's only the most beautiful thing in the world. And I think I wish for everybody, I have friends that say, like, I want a Dre because there's what is the word for that? You know, so often friends are our peers, right? We don't have necessarily, or I don't think it's as common yet, up until now, as Dre would say, up until now, to have these friendships that are intergenerational. And so, yeah, so that has been something. I also, this idea of working with friends. I have one of my best friends is a musical theater writer, and he has this lyric, I just want to do what I love with the people I love. And that has always struck me as like, oh, that is joy, that is purpose, that is the meaning of life. Do what I love with the people I love. So yeah, it's a privilege to work and collaborate with somebody that I love so much. And as far as this is a me thing, but I feel things very deeply. And this text exchange actually,
Scorpio.
Scorpio, yeah, a lot of water. But this text exchange came out of a misunderstanding that we had. And we, I'll go as far to say is no, we did resolve it. But I just am never really satisfied. Like I want to really make sure that it's received. So yeah, I can think that's part of being an artist and why I'm so drawn to music and art because, yeah, when words fail, song uh, elevates our feelings. So, um, but what that also I think ties into is what we promised each other was transparency. So I am always trying to make sure that I'm completely understood and that I completely understand Dre every step of the way.
Yeah. And I was going to say, and poetry. Emily wrote a poem for my birthday a few years ago now. And it's one of the most beautiful things I've ever received in my life was this poem. And we weren't working together as, we weren't as deep into our friendship as we are now, but it changed my life. I keep it in every journal that I have. I have a copy of it on my wall. So your artistry, that's all I wanted to talk about too, is that your ability to express love in song and
or
in
poetry,
poetry.
or
Yeah.
words.
She's saying she and my fairy goddess daughter Ava recorded my favorite song right now, which is Salt Then Sour Then Sweet by Sarah Bareilles. She and Ava did a duet, recorded it, sent it to me for my birthday, and I, fell over because it was the most thoughtful, beautiful gift and expression of love.
As I'm listening to the two of you, I love how you are audaciously exploding the barriers that we have set ourselves as humans or a society on what are the ways to show love to each other, right? That we are sort of, we're allowed to do it in romantic relationships, even though also there we have tons of barriers. And we were, definitely taught, or I was taught, to sort of keep the things in your chest, though, to never really be so transparent and to, to strategically a little bit make sure that you sort of have the power or the upper hand or whatever it may be. And you both show that all of this is complete nonsense, especially between friends, right? And this is something that I have had this desire and longing for. This type of relationship has been with me my whole life. And I'm just trying to embody exactly that, where there aren't any of these boundaries, and we make it up as we go, and we embody this this abundance of love where there is no barrier. And so I'm so inspired by the two of you, and by each one of you separately, and in love with the podcast, because this is exactly what you show. Right? That these barriers that we create, they keep us from ourselves, they keep us from others, and ultimately those connections don't really feed us in a way that we deserve and that we long for. So talk to us a little bit about, keeping the flame alive, which is a thing we also have to do with friends. That's not just with romantic partners.
Mm. Well, what's coming to me now as you were sharing all of that, so true what you said. It's so true that we're afraid to express love up until now because we haven't really been taught self-love, how to fill our own well and then give from there. So the risky part about expressing love is when we express it with attachment. Okay, I'm going to write this beautiful poem and give it to this person in the hopes that they're going to love me.
Yeah.
And we back that all the way up now and we go, no, I'm going to give this love poem to this person because I am so full of love and I'm going to give it as my gift. And that's it. Like that's, love without attachment. Yeah. And that's what I had to learn and learned in circles. So I'm being, a little bit hyperbolic about it, but like I really do love myself so that when I sit in a circle with women, which is a risky experience, and it took some practice, and I guide women all the time. They're like, I think I want to have a birthday circle. And I'm like, great, here's what you're going to do. And I've done it with a couple of Emily's friends too, is that you have to, I'm being very directive now. You have to be willing to expand your ability to receive. And the best way to do it is to trick yourself into knowing that by receiving, you are giving everybody else a great gift, because we all know how good it feels to give. So my birthday circle this weekend, so in love with all the women in this circle, and they gave me a lot of love. And I knew that just by receiving, it wasn't really about me, but just by receiving, I was giving them this huge gift. And in that circulation, like I'm talking with my hands right now, in that circulation, all of us felt so much love. So much love. But if I didn't love myself or I wasn't willing to receive, it wouldn't exist. It would just be, we'd keep it on the surface. We'd keep it at small talk. We'd keep it at, blowing out our candles and not saying our wishes out loud. We'd keep it at material gifts, that we're putting all of our love in a material gift, like love me because of how much money I'm spending on you. And then we all leave feeling unsatisfied, wondering why.
And then we don't have this ripple, which you have, because this incredible generosity of heart and spirit and exploding the barriers. That's what creates the ripple. And this is what you so powerfully put out into the world.
I mean, how many circles did we sit in over the pandemic where we circled around self-love, we circled around friendship, we circled around what it is we really craved and wanted, and we created it together. We were co-conspirators in stirring up this new paradigm that we all knew wanted to come through us. So we were all doing it together, not just like, oh, I'm over here and I feel so lonely by myself. No, it's all of us. We all feel alone with our stories until we share them, and sharing them in a group, and sharing them with intention, and sharing them in a sacred manner. I think that's the thing that some people are like, wait, I don't understand circling. It can be as simple as sitting around your dining room table and passing, a spoon and calling it a talking piece, and everybody just shares what they're grateful for. That's a circle. Or you sit in a circle outside in nature and you consciously connect to whatever it is you want that's outside of you. Call it Mother Nature, God, Mother Earth, but you intentionally harness your focus, your spirit together. And in that vortex, let's call it, in that portal that you co-create together, so much beautiful wisdom and gifts come through each and every one in the circle. And then you start to feel like, oh, this is the way to be. Not that other way where we're disconnected from ourselves, from one another. That's the abnormal. And then we get back into the circle and we just recalibrate. Oh, I want more of this. This feels like the center of it all.
Definitely.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yes, to that a million times. I would say, as far as keeping the flame alive, I mean, we do have regular check-ins, so that's one thing. I mean, I think, this might be specific to Dre, but recently, Dre, you said something about how with your other friends, and I think me too, you get to know one another's wounds. And not that you cater to somebody's weaknesses at all, but there's a sensitivity around that, knowing that, and just, holding that compassionately. Um, and recently, I don't even think I've told you this, Dre, but I didn't necessarily consciously realize that I do this, but I see it now. When I'm anxious or overwhelmed or just in a state, I retreat a little bit. I definitely don't ask for help yet as quickly as I should, and it's really unconscious at the time, but I do just pull back a little bit. And Trey doesn't let me. And I didn't realize it until recently, but she's a little witchy and a little wizardly. So I don't know. She just senses things and she'll say things like, "What? Are you good? I need to hear your voice. I don't believe you." And it really is, I feel it in such a loving way, such a singularly loving way. So
Mm,
I think, yeah, as far as keeping the flame alive, it's really knowing one another and just being sensitive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
agreed.
how do you co-create together? Talk to us. Are you riffing? Do you have clear roles? How do you
Yes.
co-create Circle This?
So
Mm.
we have very clear roles, which we've learned working together. And I'm all into everything, you name it, astrology, human design, enneagrams. If there is a system to study, I have a Capricorn moon, so I love studying. That's why I love doing this podcast, is sharing all this information. But we've done deep dives, also learned a lot on the podcast about specifically what we're designed for. I used to think, this is my naive self, everybody should be like me. Nope. Not everybody should be like me. Everybody's an individual and designed for different things. We have looked up our designs and now we get each other. Emily's much better at big vision and moving things forward and like, now let's go. I can see it. Let's build it. And I'm back here because I have a Saturn in Taurus and I'm like, well, let me think about it. Let me feel into it. Everything has to be aligned. And then I'll make a decision 4 years from now. Now that we know that about each other, I let her drive fast. She lets me feel into it. And I also give her a quicker answer knowing that she's right.
Yeah.
And I know like, oh, I'll just feel into it, but I'll just say yes to her right now. It used to take us forever for me to get to a yes. But now we get to a yes a lot sooner. And I know it's my job that if I'm not feeling it by the time we get to doing, Stephanie's podcast, I'll let her know. But I just say yes and then I get there. So we have learned the value of our differences in a really great way. What would you add to that, Emily, before I go
Yes, I
on?
mean, well, 100% I agree. And then, there's also been for me, learning like when to take off the producer hat and put the friend hat back on, and then take the friend hat on and put the producer hat back on, and being like, enough. I'm not even asking you anymore. I'm doing this. And
Right.
trust me. And then there are other times where I'm like, no, if you're not, if you don't feel great about it, if you're not confident about it, end of story. I don't have to understand. That's what's the
Mm,
most important to me.
Yeah.
You're not there yet. We're moving on. So
yeah.
it's the balance between the two.
It's such
Yes.
intention. As I'm listening to you, you have such intention and presence and intention with the heart, with each of making sure that you're always aligned
Mm,
with
Mm.
mm.
yourselves and with each other.
Yeah. And
That's
then and
real
then
work.
yeah, it is real work and we exhaust each other. Like sometimes we're exhausting. We're like we have to well, I'm exhausted. But
Yes.
the other thing that our creative process is that we bring onto the podcast what's really going on with us in real life. So we're
Mm.
constantly circling, sharing stories, living life, coming back, processing. I love a process. Processing about it and then extracting, okay, what do we want to share on the podcast? Like what's lighting us up? Like what are we feeling like urgent about? Because that's how this podcast was born. Um, and then I have this quote's coming to me. So my daughter's name is Tennessee. People ask me where the name came from. I think it came from Tennessee Williams. I read his memoir when I was in college, and he had a quote which was, "I lived life and then I wrote about it."
Mm.
And I thought that's it. So
Yeah.
I circle in, or I live life and then I circle about it, or I circle in life and then I share about it. But there's something about we go out and we have these we get to live these incredible lives right now. That's how I feel. I feel so inspired, turned on, blessed. Like the sun is shining. I see rainbows. Like it's an incredible time to be alive, even in this time of global unrest
Yeah.
and discord, that we get to have these lives and these conversations. And I am like urgent about sharing them.
Mm.
Yeah, which I'm
This,
so grateful for because it's so needed. And there's such a sacredness about it and the way you do it.
mm, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I think it's been my life sitting in circles and connecting to this sacred, ancient practice. And we've woven together. We have woven and created this and continued this together. So we're creating a sacred circle, a sacred loop, a sacred way together. And that to me should be accessible. The sacred within and the sacred that we feel when we come together should be accessible, is now becoming accessible to everyone, rather than having a leader being the only ordained one in touch with the sacred. Yes, we need our teachers and our high priestesses and our guides, and we all have it within us, and we all have the right to connect to the sacred within.
Which is exactly that co-creation in each circle, which you do
Mm.
the same on the podcast. And that's why that to me is this multiplying effect, this ripple that you talk about, right? Because it's easier to be what you can see. And with you, we can't only see it, we can also feel it, right? It is
Mm.
it's an energy that you bring to this, and you both bring to it, and so you bring to it individually, you bring to it together, and you bring to it with every person that you bring on. And so the circle gets wider and wider, and then there's some sub circles, but it's this circle of this sacred energy, this love energy that goes and ripples out into the world.
Mm.
And it's really, I mean, I don't just hear it, I feel it, and it goes through me, and it's very special. So
Oh.
Mm.
talk to us a little bit about, what you think going forward. You've had a very successful first season. You're onto your second season. What plans and goals do you have? You said, amazing sort of numbers, what you want to get to. And yes, you have to aim to, reaching millions and millions of people. What are the plans and goals for the two of you going forward?
Emily said she had that half-baked idea, but that is a great idea that is
Yeah.
coming through, which is to be in more community. So I don't have a vision of sitting on a stage and having everybody watch. I do have a vision of sitting, let's say, on the floor with other people and circling around these conversations and sharing these conversations in community. So we would have a guest, Em and I would be there, but we would have more of an engaged circle share, not circle proper, but just that feeling of we're all in this together, and we're sharing and co-creating this together. So a version of all the things that she and I love to do, which is bringing people together, connecting, and yeah, and also, um, I want to say producing experiences, and we're recording it for a podcast. How about that? That's what I
Yes.
see. It's coming to me, and it might be something that we don't really understand or see. You know how everything is evolving so quickly. So it's this idea that's floating in, and until then, we're going to keep recording. We're going to keep connecting with people. We're going to keep sharing our stories, and we're going to keep circling, and we're going to keep yeah,
Building the
just
bridges,
yeah,
right? You
yes.
do a lot of bridge building, and you do a lot of putting a lot of beautiful information out there for people to build their own bridges and find their own connections. And um,
Yeah, and giving people more permission to connect. So
mm,
even in their families or in their love relationships, their friendships, that's the most inspiring part to me, is that when people listen to the podcast and they experience that something was unlocked in them and they had a more connected experience, and they brought more love into their lives. That's the best part for me. Or they felt more connected to themselves, and now they're sharing more
mm,
of themselves with other people. And you're right. I learned primarily to become more of who I am today by sitting in circles with other women. That's how I learned, or that was my main becoming. My school of life was sitting in circles.
mm,
And so to amplify that for other people, that they too can get to know themselves simply by seeing or listening or witnessing. Emily and I have all these great stories of evidence of, representation matters. That when you see someone else modeling what it is you're craving, you're like, I want that. How do I get that? And then you kind of go on a little bit of a search, and you're like, and then you apply it to yourself, and you're like, oh, I can do it too.
absolutely,
I can do
absolutely.
that too.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes,
I
I'll just
can.
add to that in terms of, the dream of growing. This right now, the fact that we could do this with you on Zoom is absolute magic. And it is a blessing, and I'm endlessly grateful for it. And the convenience of it at times, I think, can be a trap. And I want to figure
Mm,
out a way to get offline as well,
yeah.
and to gather in the real world. And I would love, we're building it now, but we're going to have a studio in New York, and eventually I'd love to have one in LA where Dre is, but just to get back in the room with one another, because I just, again, it's the theater background in me, having the collective experience. It's just nothing quite replaces that. As phenomenal as this is, I'm very careful that I don't want to lean too heavily on all of this digital connection.
Yeah.
I want to remember the real life in the real world physical connection, and then figure out how to invite listeners into that experience as well.
I can see
Yes.
it. I can see it literally. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling this
Aw.
producing experiences, the school of life space where you can, where you're gonna invite people in. I mean, I'm so excited already because I can feel it.
Oh, thank you.
And it's
I
better than a live show because,
yeah.
and you said this earlier, we are so used to this model where we have the teacher or the professor or, whoever who is always sort of the leader, but actually co-creating things doesn't mean that there isn't a person that is sort of leading it or two people leading it, but it's this co-creation that is the magic. And
Yeah.
to do that live, oh my God, I get chills already.
Anytime I go to a big event, and I'm always inspired by the people up on stage, and I'm always like, yes, there's so much value in that, and I learn so much. But I'm sitting in the audience with hundreds of other people, and I don't feel connected to them, and that's all I really want to do. And what I've learned about circling is that all we really need is a simple invitation with a few little guidelines. Like literally, I want people to hire me for their events, and I'll be like, I'll set up the circles in the events and help run the conversation circles to deepen the connection based on everything we're learning from the big fancy people up on stage who have the books, who have the platforms, the success, the whatever. Because everybody in the audience wants to process and connect further, and yet the model doesn't allow for that yet.
Yeah,
I want to build that. I want to build that new model.
You're gonna build that, and I am so excited. Dre and Em, you are magical. Both of you. The podcast is incredible. Everyone, tune into the Circle This podcast. I'm excited for these events because we learn from listening and we learn by watching, but really how we digest and integrate those messages is by circling around them. And if we can do that live with people, that to me is hugely exciting.
So great. Thank you for having us, Stephanie.
Thank you so much.
You're such a supporter and a circle sister. Really. So happy to be here. Thank you.